There's a lake in Oregon where nothing ever really sinks, except the truth. Winter, 1924. The Deschutes National Forest sleeps beneath 12 feet of snow. Pines creak, rifles echo in the distance, and a single trail of smoke curls from a trapper's cabin near a place locals call Lava Lake. To most it's just wilderness. To the few who know its silence, it's a vault, cold, vast, and watchful. And this winter, 3 men have made it their home. Edward Nichols, a seasoned trapper in his 40s, Dewey Morris, younger, strong, a former logger, and Roy Wilson, the newcomer with a quick grin and a better shot than sense. They came for fur, money, and solitude. They built a cabin, set hundreds of traps, and vanished from the noise of the world. But before the snow sealed them in, one of them wrote a letter home. It read, "If we don't come back by March, something's wrong." Weeks later he would be proven right. Lava Lake lies high in Oregon's Cascade Range, 40 miles from the nearest town. In winter, it is a landscape sculpted by isolation. Lava ridges, white drifts, and forests so dense they swallow sound. Temperatures drop below zero. Travel is nearly impossible. Only the most resilient hunters stay through the cold months. Nichols, Morris, and Wilson were part of that rare breed. They hauled in supplies before the first storms, then hunkered down for the season, running trap lines that stretched miles through the snowfields. Their world was the hiss of wind, the crack of trees, and the faint prints of animals that would not survive the thaw. By January their traps were full, their hides stacked high. They were ready for a profitable spring. But outside the forest, a shadow lingered, a man named Charles Kimsey, a former associate of Nichols. Years earlier he'd worked with the trappers and left angry, unpaid, and nursing a grudge. Locals still remembered his threats. In town, March arrived before the trappers did. No one thought much of it at first. The snow often kept men late. But a merchant in Bend noticed something. Supplies the trio had ordered weren't collected. Mail piled up unanswered. Then came the first report from a passing ranger. No smoke from the cabin in weeks. The mailman who normally saw sled tracks along the trail said the path had vanished under untouched snow. Something felt wrong. A small search party formed, just a handful of men on horseback and snowshoes. They rode through miles of wind-scarred forest until they reached the cabin at Lava Lake. The door was barred from the outside. Inside, supplies were neatly stacked, dishes washed, rifles hanging where they should be. But the stove was cold and the bunks were empty. Outside, 3 sled dogs barked endlessly, thin, starving, still tied to their posts. Whoever had left the cabin had done so in a hurry, and had not returned. The searchers followed faint depressions in the snow, tracks leading from the cabin toward the lake. But after a short distance, the trail simply stopped. The wind had erased the rest. By now, word spread to Bend and Redmond. Locals whispered theories: a snowstorm, a robbery, a fight gone wrong. But as the weeks passed and the snow began to melt, Lava Lake would offer its own evidence. And it would be far worse than anyone expected. When the thaw came, the first body surfaced. The first thaw came quietly, almost imperceptibly. The ice on Lava Lake cracked with a muted groan, the kind of sound that hints at a weight pressing just beneath the surface. By early April, rangers who had returned to check the area made the grim discovery: Edward Nichols' body, partially submerged near the eastern shore. He was bound at the wrists, his coat frozen stiff against his chest. A day later the others appeared. Dewey Morris and Roy Wilson, discovered in shallow water, their bodies entangled among submerged logs and reeds. All 3 had signs of foul play: bindings, blunt force trauma to the skull, and gunshot wounds at close range. The cold preserved the scene almost perfectly, as if the lake itself had decided to keep the crime in suspended animation until the world was ready to see it. Back at the cabin, investigators noted the chilling precision of the arrangement. Supplies remained untouched, rifles still in their racks. It was as though the killers had been careful, deliberate. Nothing indicated a robbery. Nothing indicated a struggle inside. The trappers had left, and the killers had waited or followed them to the lake, leaving almost no evidence. Local newspapers ran headlines like, "3 trappers found in frozen lake, Oregon mystery deepens." Yet the press struggled to grasp what had truly occurred. Witnesses were scarce. Snow-covered trails obliterated any trace of pursuit. And the one man who might have offered insight, Charles Kimsey, could not be located. He had vanished weeks before the bodies were found. Detectives combed the area meticulously. Every footprint, sled mark, and trail was cataloged. They interviewed locals, cross-referenced past disputes, and reviewed the trappers' acquaintances. Motives emerged: Kimsey's grudge over unpaid debts, rival trappers competing for the lucrative winter furs, and whispers of old vendettas among forest workers. Yet each lead dissolved like snow in sunlight. Kimsey had no alibi, but no one could prove he had reached the lake. Another suspect, a wandering logger, was seen in the general region but had no ties to the men. Even the trappers' own disagreements, minor quarrels over traps and territory, offered no motive sufficient to justify such meticulous, lethal action. The more investigators uncovered, the stranger the case became. Nothing suggested robbery. Nothing suggested panic. It was controlled, calculated, and final. Whoever committed this act had no intention of leaving witnesses, yet left evidence meticulously minimal, almost as if daring investigators to solve it. Lava Lake itself became a character in the tragedy. Its icy surface, cracked by thawing temperatures, held secrets like a locked diary. Every disturbance in the water told a story that could not be fully read. The frozen bindings, the arrangement of the bodies, the untouched cabin. Together they formed a riddle that confounded experts and amateurs alike. By May, with the snow fully melted, the investigation hit a dead end. The state police admitted that with so little evidence and no eyewitnesses, this would likely remain an unsolved mystery. Locals whispered of revenge, of betrayal, and even of dark omens carried by the lake. The silence became a part of the story, a weight pressing on everyone who dared approach the site. These questions were left unanswered. How did the killers travel undetected through deep snow? Why leave the cabin untouched while the trappers were murdered elsewhere? Where was Charles Kimsey, and what role did he truly play? Could it have been someone else entirely, someone the trappers never suspected? These questions turned the case into a historical enigma. Experts, journalists, and amateur sleuths would revisit Lava Lake again and again, drawn by the cold precision of the crime and the eerie calm of the forest. Now here comes the interesting conclusion part. Make sure to hang on till the end. The spring sun glinted off the melting ice, but the forest around Lava Lake remained heavy with silence. 3 men had vanished into the cold and returned only as bodies, their story written in snow, water, and frost. The investigation had stalled, but the questions continued to echo through the trees and across the town of Bend. Historians and true crime enthusiasts would later call it the perfect wilderness murder. Controlled, deliberate, unsolvable. The killers, or the circumstances, had vanished as completely as the snow that once concealed their tracks. Locals whispered. Was it Charles Kimsey acting out vengeance for old debts? Some suggested rival trappers, jealous of Nichols, Morris, and Wilson's success. Others speculated something stranger, a conflict that had escalated silently, leaving only ice and shadows in its wake. Every theory had gaps. Every explanation failed to fully account for the precision of the crime, the untouched cabin, and the absence of a visible struggle. It was as though the lake itself had decided who would live and who would not, and then carefully erased the footsteps of its choice. The tragedy lingered because it was personal and universal. Each viewer, reader, or investigator could imagine themselves alone in the wilderness, trusting companions, feeling the cold press in at night, and realizing how quickly that trust could shatter. The case became a study in human vulnerability and the limits of knowledge. Every unanswered question gnawed at the mind. How much of life is within our control? How many secrets does the world keep, waiting for someone to discover them? Lava Lake remains a mirror of the past. Hikers see only its glassy surface, unaware of the whispers beneath. Historians note the murders briefly in archives, while enthusiasts keep the story alive in discussions and forums. But in truth, no one fully knows what happened on that icy night in 1924. The silence endures. The lake does not speak, and yet it watches. A century later, the forest holds its secrets, and the lake keeps its promise of silence. But what do you believe happened to Edward Nichols, Dewey Morris, and Roy Wilson that winter? Could justice have been avoided, or did the wilderness itself decide their fate? Share your theories in the comments and join the conversation. If the allure of forgotten mysteries, real human enigmas, and chilling historical crimes calls to you, subscribe to Real Echoes of Reality. Keep your light on. Some echoes still watch back.